welcome to the next lesson of how to play the blues. In this lesson I'm going to be covering the right hand, and I'm going to give you a whole bunch of scales to use that you can use over the blues. Surprisingly, not just the blues scale, though that is the most true to style, as in if you're playing a blues song and you want a bluesy solo, you can use the blues scale. But I'm going to cover a whole bunch of other ones, and then I'm going to explain how they work, how they fit in, and also how to think about improvising, or rather how I think about improvising. So I should say, so we're in the key of C for this lesson, but obviously everything I say is transposable to any other key. And I'm going to be covering things like dominant sevens being in the key of, like C7 being in the key of F, so keys and modes and stuff like that. So if you don't really understand that, go back and have a look at some of my music theory lessons where I cover dominant sevens, keys and modes. But otherwise, let's begin. So the first scale we need to learn is the C minor pentatonic scale. So pentatonic, pent means 5, it's got 5 notes in an octave or in the scale. So the notes are C, E flat, F, G, B flat, C. You can add one extra note, which is the G flat, and then that can become a blues scale. So the blues notes in the blues scale are C, E flat, F, G flat, G, B flat, and then back up to the C. Now, a lot of people just get that far and play over blues using a blues scale, and that sounds pretty good, like So that was just a blues scale, except I think I accidentally hit the B on the G7, but ignore that. So that's pretty easy, and that sounds really bluesy, but after a while it starts to get a bit stale. So a really simple thing you can do is play the C blues over the C7, but then when you go up to the F7, instead of continuing on the C blues scale, you can play the F blues scale. Same as when you go up to the G7, you can play the G blues scale. Sorry, I did a few other things in there, but you get the general idea. C blues on the C, F blues on the F, G blues on the G. And that sounds a bit more interesting as well, because you've got some other notes like going in there. Another really simple thing you can do is just playing the arpeggios. So we're on the key, we're on this chord of C7, so just play the C7 arpeggio. Again, pretty simple. Now, the next scale I'm going to show you is a bit more interesting. It's the C Mixolydian Mode. Now that, again, sounds much more complicated than it actually is. C7 is the dominant 7 of the F major scale. So it's the 5th in the scale, therefore it's the dominant. So you can play F major over the C7. But because we're starting and ending on the C, given we're on the C7 chord, that's called the C Mixolydian Mode. Then when you go to the F, you play the F Mixolydian Mode, which is the B flat, so it has a B flat and an E flat. G Mixolydian Mode, so it's C major, so no sharps or flats. So that's another good one you can play. As part of that, you can also play the major pentatonic. So I showed you the minor pentatonic. Now you can play the C major pentatonic over a C7 chord. So the notes are C, D, E, G, A, C. Again, pentatonic, 5 notes. Now, the way to think about pentatonics, and a little trick, is that the major pentatonic is the minor pentatonic, but 3 semitones down. So C major pentatonic is exactly the same as 1, 2, 3, A minor pentatonic. In the same way that C minor pentatonic is exactly the same as 1, 2, 3, E flat major pentatonic. And if you pay attention, you'll have noticed that all the notes in the C major pentatonic are also in the F major scale. So really, the C major pentatonic is effectively like playing the F major, but you're intentionally missing a few of the notes. Next one I was going to show you is Lydian Dominant. So again, in the C, when you're playing C7, you play C Lydian Dominant. Now, the Lydian mode means the 4th, so you're playing G major, but starting and ending on the C. That means you've got the F sharp, which from the point of view of the C is the tritone, which is the blues note, or one of the blue notes. But given it's a Lydian dominant, you also flatten the 7th, so you put in a B flat. So it sounds like this. Right, same. On the F, you play F Lydian dominant, so that's C major, but with a flattened 7th from the F's point of view is the E flat. So then on the G7, you play G Lydian dominant, which is D major, but with a flattened 7th because it's a Lydian dominant. So it's the F. So all you've got really is the C sharp left. So that's another good one as well. Another mode you can play is the Dorian mode. So on the C7 you can play C Dorian, which again, Dorian means it's B flat. So B flat has the B flat and the E flat, both of which are in the blues scale. So that sounds pretty cool as well. Same with the F, you play F Lydian dominant, you play F Dorian, which is E flat major, and G Dorian is F major. So you've just got the B flat in there, and then the natural F. Another good one to play is the whole tone scale, starting from the C. So the whole tone scale, as the name implies, it goes up in whole tones. So you're hitting the C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C. So again, if you pay attention, these 3 notes are in F major. The F sharp and the B flat, or the G flat and the B flat, if you like, are in the blues scale. So all you're really adding is the A flat, which is not at all in the blues scale or F major, but it's an interesting little sort of off note that you can throw in. So if you go over all this and have a look down in the description where I've written everything out, you'll notice that each of the scales I've given you, most of the notes are the same, and some of them, like usually only 1 or 2 notes change. Like for example, the C Mixolydian, which is F major, has the B flat and the natural E. C Dorian, which is B flat major, has the E flat and the B flat. So really the only difference between C Mixolydian and C Dorian is one has a natural E, one has a flat E. That's really it. And if you go through most of them, like I said, you'll notice that most of the notes are the same. And so, having now explained a whole bunch of different notes, chord scales rather, that you can use, I'm going to tell you more or less to disregard all of them. Because you can really use any note whatsoever in the blues or in jazz. Now, of course, like from a classical point of view, that's blasphemy. But in reality, if you know how to sort of structure it and how to resolve it, which I'll cover in the next lesson, you can play whatever note you like. So really all you're using is the chromatic scale. Sorry, went a bit far. So every single note you can use. Now, the way I think about it personally when I'm improvising is that I think of the blues scale, then I think of the arpeggios, and then I think of like wrong notes, like the A flat, like D's and A's and D flats, that you can throw in to make it sound a bit more interesting. So, and that's really it. If you think about it like that, then improvising really isn't so difficult. The only reason you would use scales is if you want to practice and sort of get a specific sound, because really scales are avoiding certain notes. That's what it is. You can use a chromatic scale, which means you use every single note. Any other scale is a subset of the chromatic scale. So you're intentionally avoiding some notes, and you're doing that to create a certain sound and just to practice. So it's definitely good to practice in, say, C Dorian or C Mixolydian or C Lydian Dominant, but really it's not, when you're actually improvising and performing, you don't really need to think about scales like that. You just need to play everything as long as you like how it sounds. So that's really it. So to recap, we covered a whole bunch of scales. So the minor pentatonic, the blues scale, and using the blues scale in each key individually, so C blues, F blues, and G blues scale. Then we looked at arpeggios, we looked at the Mixolydian mode, we looked at major pentatonics, we looked at Lydian dominants, we looked at the Dorian mode, we looked at the whole tone scale, and then we looked at the chromatic scale. So all of those scales you can use to improvise, and they'll all give you different sounds. But in the end, just play whatever you like. Play whatever sounds good. Cool. So in the next lesson, I'm going to cover a whole bunch of stuff on how to mix all these together and to get sort of some interesting sounds and to make it sound bluesy. And essentially how to practice improvising. Cool. Thanks a lot. See you guys.